Hello, everyone, and welcome to our conversations on the future of work and leadership. This has been a very unusual time for all of us New Yorkers. We've all been navigating the pandemic while also juggling work and life. Over the next few weeks, I'll be having conversations with fellow New Yorkers on their views on how work is changing and what leadership and resiliency really mean in times like these, in times of crises. Today, we're very lucky to have with us, one of our New York heroes, Mr. Ramu Damodaran. Mr. Damodaran is Deputy Director for Partnership and Public Engagement at the United Nations. He's also the Chief of the United Nations Academic Impact Initiative and the current Secretary of the United Nations Committee on Information. Mr. Damodaran, thank you so much for making the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Liz. Thanks.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from and what brought you to New York?
Well, I'm from India and actually from probably the same part of India that you are, Kerala. Even though I've never been there, I grew up in Delhi, the capital, went to school and college there, and then joined the Indian Foreign Service. And that brought me to New York as an Indian diplomat in 1986. And I was with the Indian mission for a few years and then joined the United Nations, where I am now. So I've been with the United Nations for more than 25 years in various departments. Right now in the Department of Global Communications. And it's been an exhilarating experience, not only to work for the United Nations, but to work for the United Nations in a city like New York.
Great, that's great. And so what's your favorite part of your job? Because you're in communications and, you've been in the middle of all of this as we try to work together across countries and, national geographies.
Right. I think my particular responsibility, as you mentioned, is something called the United Nations Academic Impact, which is a network of about 1,300 universities and institutions of higher education around the world, all of whom are committed to what we call the exercise of intellectual social responsibility.
Right.
So they use their research, they use their teaching to be able to further larger human goals, which in effect are United Nations goals. And I think the most exciting part of my job is waking up every morning, looking at my phone and finding emails from people I just don't know, but whom I can then place in the context of the institutions to which they belong. So you see something unexpected, meet someone unexpected new every day. And that's such a joy in itself. And each email brings its own questions, but more important, opportunities. So it's never a patterned day for me. I don't at this moment know what tomorrow will bring, and that's what's exciting.
Wow, that sounds so much fun. So how has all of that changed with the pandemic? I know you're working from home now as your colleagues. Tell us a little bit about how your job has changed and, how is it evolving?
Well, the job has certainly changed in terms of the partners we work with, education institutions.
Right.
They're going through a tremendous process of adapting to the situation in terms, for instance, of moving to online classes, virtual classes. Collaborative research is no longer two people working together in a laboratory. It's done at a distance, more remotely. So the nature of education, particularly higher education, has been transformed in a manner we would not have foreseen in the last 6 to 8 weeks. More so for us, it's really expanded the possibilities of digital cooperation and digital communication, because now we can bring onto the anvil institutions no matter where they're in the world, because all they need is an internet connection and a working phone, and in many cases the ability to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning while others are within their normal comfort time zone. I mean, that's a sacrifice which is demanded of some. But it's really thrown open the possibilities of a real global network of discovery, of scholarship, of research, which I don't think we would have otherwise fashioned if circumstances had not compelled us to.
That is such a glimmer of hope and strength, really, that we're bringing people together in unprecedented ways. The level of collaboration, so you can get the best from any part of the world without having to bring them here. They can sit where they are and contribute.
Yes.
And that's great. Anything unexpected that you chanced upon as you've seen things evolve within the 6 to 8 weeks? Anything that you did not expect?
That's a very interesting point, Liz. I think the one thing that, in a sense, has really both surprised and enriched me is how institutions, no matter where they feel themselves on the hierarchy of global rankings or global regard, are able to work together in a manner that is utterly democratic at this time. So it's no longer a set of premier institutions working in a league apart, while the lesser known or more anonymous institutions are working quietly. There is a willingness to partner, a willingness to work together, no matter what your pedigree, no matter what your reputation internationally. And you find that in this process, institutions and individual scholars who have been under the radar for so long suddenly blossom, suddenly come out, and are able to compete on their own with those who are otherwise more legendary or more highly regarded. And that's been incredibly enriching and also incredibly empowering.
That is wonderful. So really the serendipitous uncovering of talent that may have not had a chance to be exposed in the past. And the democratization of knowledge and exchange of information, collaboration. Wow, who would have thought, right? So those are some very positive things coming out of this experience for all of us. Ramu, as you reflect upon, all these changes you're seeing, all these connections globally, what do you think are the most important things for us to hold on to in times like these, in times of crises? What does leadership really look like?
Leadership would really depend on, to my mind at this point, the one single factor of hope. And I think we've done remarkably well there. When you look at what is happening, when you think of the number of lives that have been lost, the number of lives that have been touched by those that have been lost, it could have been a situation of utter resignation and despair. And yet there has been a sense of resolve, a sense of community, that sense of hope, which I think a leader at every level, whether it is at the national or at the institutional level, in a university, in a college, for that matter, in a student's body, that ability to sustain that this too shall pass and we will be able to get to above it. And the fact that we have not only hope, but confidence in ourselves as intelligent human beings who will not allow ourselves to be thwarted by something which is as anonymous and difficult to trace as the virus. So that, to my mind, is the one single important lesson. And I think it's a lesson that we've not only learned, but a lesson whose results we are seeing every day.
Right, a lesson of hope and resolve, and not being thwarted by this virus. That is really at the heart of it all. Ramu, thank you so much. In closing, any other remarks from a New Yorker? Just as you've lived and worked through this and many other crises, anything you want to leave us with?
No, I'm touched that you mentioned many other crises, because I was thinking of the morning of 9/11, when I was walking from Grand Central Station, not knowing at all what had happened just 20 minutes earlier, towards the United Nations. And I found the sea of people walking towards me to get into Grand Central Station to rush home. And that's when I heard about it, and the way the city was over those 3 days. Obviously, this has been a much longer experience. But the one thing which has struck me and made me proud as a New Yorker is on the occasions when I have stepped out onto the streets wearing a mask and seeing people around me wearing masks, I suddenly realized something which I don't think I had ever consciously realized at any point in my life, that eyes can smile. So when you look at a person wearing a mask and your eyes make contact, you smile beneath the mask, and your lips cannot be seen, but your eyes signify the message that you're trying to convey. And that sense of that shared smiling of the eyes that has brought all of us New Yorkers together in our chance encounters, whether 6 or 10 feet apart, but within the range of those eyes, I think is the beauty and the greatness and the uniqueness of the city that we call home.
That is so wonderful. Thank you so much, Ramu. I really appreciate you making the time, and grateful for joining us today.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you for the opportunity.